with Patrick and myself. So I posted the YouTube link in the member channel on Discord for everyone to take a look. It's the interview's a bit long. It's about an hour, but you know, uh, Patrick, just like Theo, you know, that they have that the expertise of the gaming industry and what promise it could possibly bring to RChain. So yeah, and
I watched that video, Steve. Who is Frank Doherty? Don't we know him? Wasn't he a member for a while?
well, he attended a Casper Lab a couple times.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
I thought I
he kind
recognized the name.
yeah, he kind of comes and goes, but he's a technical writer apparently, or I'm not sure if he's in school or just out of school, but I got to this is a work assignment or something like that. But I think he's studying to be a technical writer. So yeah, I mean that's a neat skill set. You know, it's kind of like you're not a coder. You know, you're not in there, you know, pounding out code. But you can read it. You can, when you look through it, you can understand it. And then that other talent of communication. You know, you can write the written word in a way that people understand. So you're looking at lines of code, understanding what they mean, and then you know kind of turn it around in your brain, and it comes out in a paragraph form. You know, or you know articulating to someone what it is they're looking at and what they need to do. So yeah, I thought you know that's Frank kind of enlightened me. He didn't explain it in those terms, but that's kind of how I kind of gathered the process works. Um,
Yeah,
so
this with things being so extremely technical and having so many specialists who are deep into their own area of expertise, it's nice to have uh, generalists, people who can
yeah,
dance from one specialty to another, and then tie all these things together.
yeah,
Um, I used to think that I was one of those types, but now I've gotten in too deep in too many of the areas to
yeah.
tie things easily together. So I always like hearing other people's take on these different subjects.
Right, right.
That
Yeah,
describes me at least. Like I kind of jump between different, different topics all the time. Like I can work with web like for a month, then I can work with C++, then I jump into game development. Then I can do some, cryptography stuff. So it's kind of, I don't have a niche. Like I'm not like a specialist within one field. I like to jump between different fields, back and forth.
yeah. One thing I want to point out, Jim, I think you received an email from Lilia Rusu regarding it was an invitation communications infrastructure. Gary, I had requested that you would be included on that email, but I'm not seeing your
I got
email.
the email.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe a little background as to what that is. So, you know, it's you know, now the effort is to work towards building DApps in transaction volume. So with RCat, Greg wants to kind of get that updated and have that as a backend for something like Zulip or some type of message queuing application. So we can use that for RChain, you know. So we your name came up when they were talking about bots. You know, we need someone who, you know, Jim and Gary, you know, they're familiar with creating the key-based bots and Mattermost bots. I think that's what someone mentioned, Mattermost. I think it was Ian. And I mentioned, hey, if you're talking bots, Gary is familiar with that. So, but that is going to be I get a feeling, a push or a focus or a coordinated effort is around this communications application. And and it's, Greg is actually, the mind behind. So that, it's kind of exciting, in a sense. I've been kind of involved, or kind of leading the DAP development group for these months now. And you have Raphael coming in with this exciting DAPI, and Arthur Grief, during the tech governance and education, and Theo with what he's working on with visual Rolang. So it's, I've been all members of the community talking about apps, DApps. And Greg, his been focus is, I sit in on the weekly dev stand-ups, and it's all about the core platform. But now this is a shift. It's Greg talking about an application, a DApp. It's like, this is what I want to do. I'm like,
It's about time.
wow. I'm like, did I feel the earth move? I mean, okay. So, and already I mean, it's like you get the sense he knows what he wants, he sees it, and how he wants to pull it together. And I'm like, okay, I'm not a coder or anything, but I want to kind of be in the room to understand what's going on, and help do what I do, which is help facilitate the process. So, but it's it's kind of exciting. It's like, okay, wow, this is our, I wasn't really around when our song was kind of in discussion, so that was before my time. So I think that was probably the last big RChain effort to for an application. So yeah, so this, and I had just looked into Zulip a couple weeks back because Jake Gilberg was brought everyone together for the computational calculus sessions on Saturday, and he kept talking about Zulip in the chat room. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? So apparently there's this he's got a chat room where all these mathematicians come together, and they're talking about computational calculus. They're talking about Gary, what monads and functors, and and so all of this high level math. So, but it's it's in Zulip. So I wasn't brave enough to create an account and jump in, because so much of that mathematics stuff is over my head. But I watched a video too on how Zulip is different from Slack and from Mattermost and from Discord. So you can even if you step away for a few days, you can see your a thread come through, and then focus in on that thread and see all the conversation around it, as opposed to Discord and Slack is if you miss a couple days and it's really been really busy, you got to go all the way back 50 messages back, and then kind of follow them, and it could be mixed in with different topics, what's going on. So I kind of like that architecture of Zulip. So so I think there's other queuing apps out there, but it'll be interesting to see what we come up with.
Yeah, I didn't see the video, so I don't know how to write this, to do this. I tried to create a topic RChain, and
okay.
I haven't found anybody on here yet. I see a bunch of hashtags here, which I assume are topics. I don't know how to create them. Some of them have new items, I guess, since I joined.
So this math channel that Jake Gilberg is in.
I don't see that.
You don't see that? That would be one thing I would be interested in joining.
Well, this is, this would be the user interface for a backend on RChain, is what Greg's talking about, right?
Right.
This is a decentralized communication platform.
Yeah.
And the basic communications is so essential
Yeah.
for any kind of application to exist. Period.
I mean, this is
Okay.
how we. Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, so and it's going to, it's going to involve doing the stuff that we need to do anyway, like creating a personal locker where you can keep your capabilities, on RChain.
Yeah.
And mailboxes basically, for sending stuff to each other on, creating channels and connecting with people.
Hey, Daryl.
Hey,
Hey, everybody.
But,
so this is going to be our communication app. That's what it's going to
uh,
look like, huh?
well, we're gonna have our version of Zulip.
Well,
Yeah,
it'll be part of the decentralized network, right? I mean, Julep is only one system, isn't it? It's decentralized.
Well, maybe maybe I'm not understanding. So, Jim, it sounds like you're thinking that we would be using Zulip's front end, but we would have the back end and all this stand up the servers and so forth being served out through RChain nodes.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I hadn't really thought of it in that regard. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We've got a,
I haven't really looked at the architecture. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just assuming that's what Greg wants to do, but maybe not.
I think
okay.
I think your assumption is pretty on target, because that's I think how he worded it yesterday. I think he worded it in such a way where we'd like rip out the back end and put ours in.
Okay. Yeah. So now it's becoming a little bit more. I think I'm understanding it better. Yeah.
It's basically what Zulip is a web service, right? And he's talking about implementing that service in RChain.
Right. Okay. Now I'm starting to get it. I was in the meeting and I only got not even half of what the concept was, but now but yeah, now I'm starting to understand.
And one thing that I found inspiring was that Greg was basically talking about scenario and where we came from scenario, which is kind of, you could kind of argue that Zulip is kind of what scenario was doing.
Right, exactly.
And so it's kind of like it's come full circle. Here we are now.
Right.
Greg, it was clear to Greg 2-3 years ago that scenario needed a proper platform to build on top of. He came to realize that the other models weren't going to work, and that's how RChain was born.
Right.
And now we're here, full circle. We've reached mainnet. We've achieved our goals, at least looking like it, and now we can start to focus back on what we were focusing on with scenario. You could look at it that way.
Right, and we have a model that we're just implementing. It's a no-brainer. we just have to write it in Rolang,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could do that in a day, right?
Well, we could do a contract a day. We could have a meeting, put our heads together, crank out a contract.
So does this mean that everything is going to be public? Like there is no private messaging in this thing?
There's no reason that content is not encrypted. You can encrypt most content. It's the client's responsibility.
Okay.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, RChain is perfectly good for encrypted data, and I think we would want encrypted data most of the time. But for now, we're just talking about JSON structures. Later we'll encrypt them.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that meeting. So wait a minute, when is that? Is
That's right after. That's the hour after the debrief.
I would have missed this meeting that I don't know why I was thinking tomorrow, but it's today. Here I am rambling about how excited I am about going to the meeting, and I didn't know where I was or when it was. So okay, thanks for that's coming up soon. So did I think I put it in my calendar wrong. That's what I did.
Yeah.
I had it.
I think we should.
No, here it is. I got it.
I think we should put it on the community calendar. You know, so, you know, and recruit people. You know, at least once a week, have a meeting where that's open to everybody.
Well, let's go to the meeting first and kind of get some guidance from Greg. You can certainly propose that, but I think let's kind of get let's kind of get Greg's sentiment first, and then based on that.
Yeah, well, we should really, we should really have a Zulip channel, right?
Oh, well, I think now we're starting to come up with the questions, for the session in an hour. Take note of the questions you want to ask. So, do we want to, have a Zulip channel in Discord? Do we want to have make sense, put it on the collab calendar? But this is going to be not a collab sponsored related. Well, it's an RChain. This is an official RChain DApp. So yeah, but it would just go on the calendar as RChain Zulip or however. So okay.
I think one of the topics is the name for the RCOM communicator.
RLIP.
Well, yeah, the marketing aspect, so Zulip, even though that's a front end, we can take that front end because it's open source and rebrand it, because it's in white label and do what we want with it. Am I understanding that correctly?
The idea is anybody can write their own interface. We're not using somebody else's interface. We're using our own interface. Self-sovereign applications.
Okay, so we wouldn't be using.
This is an example of an interface that happens to be already developed, right? So we can use it. But we, at the same time, we can be saying, well, how do we want the interface, right?
Okay, so we're just copying the interface, all the code to create that front end, but then we can stamp our own identity.
We can look back at some of the scenario designs, right?
Okay, all right, yeah. So
maybe be influenced by those or not. And I think looking at models like Keybase is important too, because that represents the utility we need.
Yeah, and speaking of Keybase, Greg, another component is identity. So, another aspect is, having this as a platform for your identity and also for voting. Being able to use this to vote. Right,
and the basic thing that enables that is the locker with the mailboxes.
Okay.
And I think I think we can all get behind this project because everybody needs us to be able to communicate in order for us to use the system. Right?
Yeah, that's going to be an exciting day when we have this we call it the mass migration from Discord to our RLIP or whatever we decide to call it.
Yeah, that will be exciting. And there's been talk of doing this for quite a long time. But it's nice that it's kind of come to the foreground now. It seems like it's the time has arrived.
Yeah.
Theo, does this conflict with your um, your voting app that you're working on?
Sort of, but not really, because if I can authenticate using this Zulip platform, like because the idea, as far as I understand, like to move all the members to this new platform that RChain is going to develop, right?
Yeah, this would be the long-term plan, but I don't know how long that would take. But I think ultimately, yeah, I think we're trying to build the RChain's version of Forum.
So the question is, where is the voting gonna be happening? Is it? I assume that you want like the voting to be happening on this new platform, right? So it's kind of convenient for users. And I see that like Zulip has already like two mobile app that works for Android and iOS.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, but it's written in React. I guess we can make it work like, I mean, my voting solution on this.
Yeah, Greg mentioned you
app.
the other day, and you and your voting app. So you were part of the conversation. So Greg has it kind of worked out in his mind, I think, of your voting efforts. So that's another question to
I think
bring
that,
up.
the voting effort there is, creates a ticket or capability, capability model to vote. And, whether we send it with a Zulip mechanism or emails or any mechanism, doesn't matter. I don't think there's a great deal of dependency.
Okay.
I mean, it may be that, we could have an independently voting application that a person interacts with, and we certainly would have that. But that app would be accessed with the capability that was distributed in Zulip.
I guess it all depends like which voting approach that we decide to go with. Like if I come up with a full decentralized anonymous voting solution, it would be preferable to probably integrate it into Zulip and Zulip mobile apps rather than making one from scratch.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem. I mean, you're not really anonymous, even if you're using the same device as a real user. It's very hard to be anonymous, completely anonymous.
Well, it's possible.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And I think, basically, if you're, if you're, what you're submitting is encrypted, I mean, that's pretty anonymous.
Yeah, but there was usually encrypted stuff has to be decrypted before it can even be read, right? So the person that's doing all the tolling has to read what's being encrypted, right?
Right.
But with my approach,
Right.
the entity that does all the counting of votes doesn't have to see what's inside this encrypted text. They can just perform the calculations on the encrypted data. That's kind of the caveat of this approach.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal. And even still, but yeah, that's with the liquid democracy, what we're doing is completely transparent. There's no anonymity in that everybody's position is clear. You know, nobody's. Uh, 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 you know, we're making decisions, and you know, each person's point of view is, you know, known to the others.
Maybe in some circumstances you want truly anonymous system for voting, because
right,
otherwise you have like North Korea kind of dictatorship.
Yeah, and within teams and within the organization, you want to know most of the time. The only time you want an anonymous vote is if you want to make sure people aren't biased because of working relationships. And if we're all working as equals, we don't have that problem. Right? Yeah, I can understand how politically they may, you know, people will need to be politically correct. And for final votes, you probably do want to do it anonymously for any important decision. But for day-to-day stuff, it's better, you know, you want to evolve to a decision. Nobody knows the right answer initially. And once, you know, we figure out what the right answer is, everybody agrees on it. That's the right answer. We don't need a vote, really, except to confirm what we decided already. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And we were going to be working on that stuff anyway, right?
Yeah. You know, I get these reports periodically from SharePost or something like that, which shows, you know, startups and the funding that they received. It's been a while, but I remember seeing Slack on there, and Slack is apparently, you know, they've received a lot of investment from the investment community. So it's just, I didn't realize that, you know, these communication apps, how much investment that they receive.
Uh-huh. Well,
And then and Keybase was recently purchased by Zoom, because Zoom was having you know, these issues of Zoom bombing, you know, people coming in to Zoom sessions, and you know, issue, you know, people doing, not doing things they're supposed to do on Zoom. So Keybase apparently will help to address some of those issues.
Yeah, this Zulip is new to me. I heard Jake mention it, but I didn't know anything about it, and I didn't investigate it. They're comparing themselves to Slack, but Slack is in my opinion, a little bit behind others. I think, Jim, you said this is a web service. Is that how this differs from other chat platforms?
no, I think, you know, every app has a front end and a back end, and there's some protocol that they talk to each other with. Okay, we're talking about re-implementing the back end, and the front end would stay the same. Okay, it's some protocol, TCP/IP protocol, most, you know, generally, which may be a web service. Whether it uses HTTP or not is not relevant. It's like a web service. So there's a room or a remote procedure call.
I'm reading about it.
So
now.
we have to look at the architecture and just implement the back end. And that's going to be, the back end is going to be an app that is a connector, a translator between Zulib and RChain, where something from, you know, a command from Zulib becomes a deploy on RChain. You know, what's the deploy for, you know, for each of the operations, what's I wonder how I find Jake on here. I guess I don't.
Uh,
Okay,
Yep.
so we'll. I guess everybody who wants to be there is going to be there for the meeting coming up.
I should probably tell Dan because he asked me about it this morning. What the meeting was about. I didn't know either.
Well, that's that's an interesting thing. I mean, we should.
Yeah. Thanks, Theo. If you could reach out to Dan and give him a little bit, because the email just went out without any explanation as to why we're coming together. So yeah, so it's good to know what the motivation is.
When is that meeting again?
It's after the community debrief.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, Dan didn't say whether he's going to come or not. Lilia will be there, huh? And
Yeah,
Gary,
I would imagine.
admin.
By the way, how do you think the accounts will work? Like, how do people sign in? Will every member need to have like a private key and sign in using private key?
Yeah,
To the platform.
that's very true. Yeah. Well, no, they won't need a private key. The private key doesn't have to leave the browser, but they have to be able to, the client has to sign messages.
I assume it's just going to use like a local RChain network. It's not going to use necessarily the mainnet.
It could be anything. I think for a lot of stuff, we're going to want to be using the main network, although I guess there's no reason they couldn't have specialized networks for different purposes. Are you talking about using the same database or a different database, a different blockchain?
I'm thinking so that users won't have to pay like transaction fees for themselves. So I assume it's just going to be like a different network from mainnet. And every transaction is going to be free, something like this.
Yeah, no, I think that, there'll be shards, I see distributed, shards for different purposes, and in some cases free, like, the artist community may have a project where they make it free for access to the artists and curators and the public, whatever. So you have these shards that you can access free, but they would probably be doing mainnet transactions, so that not everything would be free. I mean, clearly, well, we have to look at the architecture of the system, but if you're going to have billions of users on a decentralized chat system, you have to have some model to make it scalable, and that means it's economic in its essence. But yeah, we don't want to have to know about the economics. Everything should actually, everything we participate in, we should be paid for. Right? So we shouldn't have to pay for anything. And, you know, I think we, you know, I like the notion of a basket of currencies. You know, having, you know, I would vote for to have a currency, a token for the RChain project, and we can use it to give each other credit for our contributions to the project, and we can give them some utility on the platform. Obviously, not everything can be free. So, you know, they could be coupons for services. Or something.
At least it opens up a lot of possibilities. Like if we have this backend on RChain, like, and if it can communicate with a mainnet, then a lot of things can be made possible.
Well, you know,
like,
I mean,
for example, state.
It would be bots. You know, we would have really awesome bots on the network, and that apps would be, you know, but in essence, a bot and an app would be the same thing from the point of view of Zulu or whatever, right? Zulip. But we, you know, you get notifications in the app, and these notifications can invoke plugins or whatever to perform deploys on RChain, or deliver apps. In essence, one way to look at this thing is a merging of Zulip and DAPI.
Also, I assume we'll be able to browse Zulip from DAPI.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it should be browser based. I mean, I haven't looked, like I said, I haven't looked at the architecture.
I did see on GitHub that they support tables, Jim.
Tables?
Markdown tables, like in Mattermost. Which nobody else has other than Mattermost. But their support of Markdown looks to be better than even Mattermost. So we could run social ledger dig / commands
Right.
going out the gate.
Super. That would be cool. That would be cool. I don't know. You need get some kids involved in helping with this stuff.
Well, we need it looks like we need our own server, don't we? Where is Jake? Where is his group hosting their math discussion? Is Jake running his own server?
I don't know. I have no clue. I don't know. They got a lot of different packages here. Looks like it's Python, huh? Well, I guess it's different things. I mean, I don't know. It's Python, it's Node, it's JavaScript. Where's the heck is the technology?
Yeah, I know. I couldn't find any technical papers. You know, at first I was thinking it was something like Matrix, but it's not.
Zoom server. Oh, here's the docs directory anyway.
On Discord, I mean on GitHub.
Yeah. I'll put it in the chat. If I can find the chat. Um, oh, they're in read the docs. Huh?
I see there is some reference to Django as well. So it's probably requiring Django, which is a Python web server, web framework.
So basically, we would be using the Python interface, right, to RChain.
Zulip is a web application built using the Django framework. And some of the processes listed in this tutorial, such as database migrations, use Django tooling. So it seems like it's heavily relying on Django.
Where did you find that, Theo?
In the developer tutorial on their documentation. There is an architecture overview. Have you linked it? I'm gonna link it.
Yeah.
Check the last link.
Okay. Yeah, that's better.
So Zulip contains like the database, which seems to be PostgreSQL. It's not database agnostic. And on backend, they have Django and Tornado, which is Tornado seems to be like push notification server. Maybe it works like events, like subscriptions in GraphQL, something like this. I don't know. Need to check it out. And Engines X as a web server. Seems pretty standard stack, in my opinion.
So how would is that chart helpful? How would RChain fit in there?
I would assume RChain kind of replaces database and makes it decentralized. But I don't know the infrastructure of RSong at all. Like, so I don't know, maybe it's, Greg probably has it in his mind, like how it will all work together.
Okay.
So better ask him.
Okay, well, I'm going to go take a short break and then try to join the hangout.
Yes, me as well. Daryl, I just replied. Thanks. I saw your private message, so I just replied. Hopefully you can see that. But I'll see everyone in the community debrief.
Yep, I got it, Steve. And
Okay. Yeah, thank you. See everyone
Bye.
soon.
See ya.
bye, everybody.